All right, so it's tough to make out. One kid said it stinks. Aaron, that's the kid I wanted to get on the show. What'd you think of that?
You can ask any mom or any parent in America. I'm one of them.
Right.
Stinks is the nicest word that I could have possibly used. I have 7 years of alleged higher education. I personally could not figure out the online system. I did it with my son for one day. I was in tears. These programs are so difficult to manage from home. The children are so distracted. There isn't that sort of in-person way of learning where the kids can get something out of it. Honestly, it's really hard. It's not great for these children. It's putting a Band-Aid where you need a stitch. And the children of America, like I said earlier, deserve better. Look at these dark classrooms. It is not what our children deserve in America. This is like some communist dictatorship telling us what's best for our children. And all it's doing is creating a chasm between the haves and the have-nots, because private schools are back in school for well over a year. As indicated, red state schools are back for over a year.
Yep.
This really needs to stop because our kids are not learning anything. These kids need to learn how to tie their shoes, have interpersonal relationships, do math and science. Right now, they're staring at a screen for 8 hours a day.
Yeah, we've got Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn. She's going to be joining us on the set in a little bit. She represents the state of Tennessee. Kids have been back at school there for the most part for a long time. In many states, we're in New York City right now. Again, this is one of those states where 3 out of 10 kids are going to school some days, and then some days they're home. That affects parents. It affects the economy. It has a ripple effect. I want to move on, Rick. I wanted to get your opinion on President Trump. And we're getting closer now to the midterms, about 19 months away from 2022. Republicans have been having conferences in Florida. They were in Orlando last week. What do you make of Donald Trump going after Mitt Romney? He was booed off the stage at a recent event in Utah, and then going after Liz Cheney, who just last week said she's not ruling out running for president at some point.
Yeah, I think this is a continuation of what you're seeing as the America First movement. And there was a lot of criticism from some of the party establishment that Donald Trump is only one person, but what they're making a mistake, a grave mistake. And that is, this is not just about Donald Trump as a person. This is about his policies and his issues and his platform. And so I think, when you see a Mitt Romney and a Liz Cheney, I mean, there is outright disgust at the two of them for the type of attitude that they've had throughout this process, through Donald Trump's administration and now moving forward. So you're going to continue to see this, not just with the two of them, but the number of people in other states. And what it's a great indication of is that Donald Trump still has a Republican Party. He still controls it, and it's going to be his party moving forward. And then 2020 outcome will have a big impact on what he does and the party does moving forward, depending on if we take the House or the Senate.
It's a good point. John, an old political advisor from the Clinton years, James Carville. He's been out recently a little bit more than we've seen, and he's been talking about the state of the Democratic Party when it comes to those midterm elections. I thought he made some very interesting comments just recently on CNN. Take a listen.
It didn't come in the intersection of people's lives. It's just faculty lounge jargon, and it's counterproductive. It gives the aura of cosmopolitan smugness to the rest of the country, that somehow or another we think we're smarter and better than other people and we're going to lecture them, where we are. People agree with us on the issues. They like our tax plans. They think climate is an issue. They think that racial inequality, as I do, is a terrible issue in American politics. But the way that you solve that is through power. You don't solve it in the faculty lounge. You don't solve it by having arguments back and forth. You go out and you win elections.
So basically, John, what Carville was saying, and he's with Chris Cuomo, who's no intellectual heavyweight himself, but Cuomo was surprised by what he was saying, because Carville basically said that woke politics could break the Democratic Party, and we could see the results of that break as soon as 2022. Your thoughts?
There's no question about it, and James Carville has been saying this for more than 30 years. I remember back in 1991 when he orchestrated a big Democratic upset in a U.S. Senate race in Pennsylvania. His candidate talked only about health care and why Americans need it and were in danger of losing it. A year later, he oversaw the media for a candidate named Bill Clinton, who was a different kind of Democrat and totally ran away from the label liberal at the time. So Carville knows of what he speaks. And I would say that as the progressive wing of the Democratic Party becomes more dominant, you are also going to see a lot of the remaining centrist Democrats, blue-collar Democrats, looking elsewhere this time. Maybe they're not sold on the Republicans, but they just might be, as long as the dominant voice of the Democratic Party talks about taking more of their money and meddling with their culture.
All right, panel, we'll leave it there. By the way, Bill Clinton, I do have to say this, he was bipartisan. I think way back the early 90s, he was bipartisan.
Absolutely.
That's something that this radical progressive version of the Democratic Party is anything but. Panel, look forward to picking this back up top of the hour. Good stuff as always. Let's turn it over to Rachel right now. She's got some rapid reactions on this Tuesday. Hey, Rachel.
That's right, Rob. We've got a three-parter rapid reaction for you this morning. So let's take a look. First, Bill and Melinda Gates hitting Control-Alt-Delete, if you will, on their marriage, announcing that shocking news on their divorce on Twitter yesterday. An identical tweet saying, quote, this, after a great deal of thought and a lot of work on our relationship, we've made the decision to end our marriage. Sad news, of course, but this tweet really summed it up. Seeing Bill and Melinda Gates not excel at their relationship has me like, word. I wish our windows weren't closed, but you made a PowerPoint to stay away. Here's hoping your future has a better outlook. Now this, another high-profile divorce coming out of Seattle. Following, if you remember, Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos and Mackenzie Bezos finalizing their divorce in 2019. The internet now exploding with reactions like Melinda Gates, Mackenzie Bezos, and me leaving the club at 4 a.m. this hot girl summer. Others saying it will be Bill and the boys dancing the summer nights away, because you may remember this video of Bill Gates dancing at the Windows 95 launch. Really good dancer. Yeah, he's like without one drink, dances like he's been at a wedding for 17 hours. Solid moves there. Yeah. Look at that vintage video. Very good. And speaking of divorce, take a listen to this. Strange look from Ben Affleck trending on Twitter after that video. Some saying he's going through a midlife crisis, but others are taking note of the other reason he's been making headlines, a little rekindling with ex Jennifer Lopez. Maybe that's why they unmatched. And from divorce and breakups to a very happy marriage between Star Wars and The Simpsons. May the 4th be with you today. It's May 4th. You're probably going to hear that a lot, and it might get annoying. But get this. Star Wars is visiting a galaxy far, far away with their new animated series, The Bad Batch, premiering on Disney Plus, featuring a crossover with The Simpsons. Are you a Simpsons guy, Rob?
I was back in the day. I was. Yeah, they've been around forever now. I was when I was younger. I wasn't
allowed to watch it when I was younger.
I haven't watched them in a while. Matter of fact, probably 10 years since the last time I watched The Simpsons. By the way, Bill and Melinda Gates share a home outside Seattle. That's 66,000 square feet.
Some people are saying, they were suggesting in the newsroom this morning, maybe they could just live on opposite sides of the house and nobody has to move out. They never see each other.
66,000 square feet, that's absurd. They've got 3 kids, beautiful young kids, all.
Yeah, med school, law school, and school of ballet.
It's going to be interesting. Going to be interesting to see Bill Gates on the market.
Yeah.
On the open market.
Well.
Yeah, Bill. All right, I've got some headlines for you as well right now. Severe weather.
Welcome back to Wake Up America. I'm Rachel Roller. The United States seems to be on the up and up when it comes to containing the coronavirus, but countries around the world, primarily in Europe, have not been so lucky. Joining us now to talk about it, the chairman of critical care at United Memorial Medical Center, Dr. Joseph Verone. Good morning to you, Dr. Verone.
Good morning.
So let's talk about the encouraging news first. Cities reopening across the U.S. Millions of people have been vaccinated. 29.3% of the population has received both doses. How encouraging is that?
It's absolutely encouraging. There is no question about it. And actually, we can see that on the front lines. The number of cases that we're getting, at least at our hospitals, have decreased. There is no question about that. I think that the fact that people are getting vaccinated has made a difference, no question.
And your state of Texas, Dr. Verone, doing very well. Governor Greg Abbott actually tweeting out just recently, Texas reported the second lowest number of lab-confirmed COVID cases in almost 11 months. Also reported another decline in COVID hospitalizations, now at a 10.5-month low. Thanks, Texans, for containing the spread of COVID. Now, Dr. Verone, do you think this containment is here to stay?
I think that it is a beginning. And I am hoping that if people continue to do the right thing, if people continue to get vaccinated, the chances are that, yes, we are going to be okay.
Okay, now this is a positive step for the U.S., but it's not the case for many other countries. There's an overwhelming surge in India, which many of us have been talking about, of course, now considered the global COVID-19 hotspot. Others struggling, such as Turkey, recently entering its first national lockdown, Iran reporting its highest daily COVID death toll, Brazil with more than 14.5 million cases and nearly 400,000 deaths. How is it that we're in May of 2021 and we're still seeing countries having this difficult of a time getting a hold on this virus?
Well, the first thing is that, again, people drop their guard. But number two, and more importantly, is that the United States underwent an amazing and very huge, massive operation as far as vaccination. That's not the case in other countries. All those countries that you have been mentioning, I mean, the only people that you can vaccinate in them, if lucky, are people with chronic illnesses and over the age of 65.
Do you think this is going to negatively affect the U.S. and international travel, with that expecting to be opening in the coming months?
Absolutely, there is no question about it. I think that, for one thing, the U.S. Is going to be receiving some of these patients that may or may not have COVID, and they may come and again sporadically spread some cases of COVID in the U.S. So I think that's important. Also, the U.S. is going to have to be very careful as to who's going to be able to come into the country and who's not going to be able to come into the country from those hotspots that you just mentioned.
Mm-hmm. Well, back here at home, something we've been definitely anticipating, the CDC announcement that vaccinated people can go outside unmasked. Do you think, if you can, give us a timeline, a brief look into the future when we'll be able to fully remove those masks? Do you think that's soon?
Well, I think that, if we continue to do what we're doing, I'm hoping that by the winter of this year, we will be going back to a normal life. That's what I'm hoping. I think that, the fact that now we can use our masks just indoors, if people continue to get vaccinated, if people continue to do the right thing, we will be wearing no masks by the end of the year.
Okay, and let's talk about doing the right thing, following the science of what we've been told to do when it comes to schools. It's Teacher Appreciation Week, but a lot of focus, of course, is on when will kids fully be returning to in-person class. Something you and I have discussed over the past few months is that it's a low risk for young children to get the virus and then spread it to others. Why is it that we're still keeping kids in virtual learning?
That actually is something that we still don't, at least I cannot understand, because as you and me have said, kids have a very low risk of getting infected. Now, the good news on this is that, as you know, it is very likely that the FDA, sometime over the next few days, probably early next week, they are going to approve vaccination for kids 12 to 15 years of age. So that's going to be yet another step in getting kids to go back to presential classes.
Okay, so a vaccine for 12 to 15-year-olds. Do you think that will be something that's required in order for kids to go back into the classroom, or it will be highly suggested?
I mean, I hope it's just highly suggested. This thing of requirement, it's a little iffy thing. This is a country where we have a freedom of choice. Mm-hmm. So pushing people to do something, it's just not right. You should educate them to get it done, but you cannot push, like some universities, that if you are not vaccinated, you cannot go in and attend classes.
Right, and something we've seen throughout the pandemic, throughout the past year and a half, is parents wanting to make their own decisions for their own children. Dr. Varone, all the time we have for now. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
All right, we have much more ahead on Wake Up America, but before we head to break, don't forget to download our Newsmax app.
Good morning. Welcome into Wake Up America. It is Tuesday, May 4th. I'm Rob Finnerty.
And I'm Rachel Roller. Rob, it's nice to have you back.
Good to be back, by the way.
Is it?
No, it honestly is. I missed you.
You got your glistening tan. You got some sunshine.
I was the only guy at the pool with that stuff on my nose, that zinc oxide. It just had absolutely zero effect. But now can I keep the tan throughout the summer?
You live in the Northeast now.
Good.
It's a tougher challenge.
Warming up here, though, so that's a good thing.
All right, let's take a look at some of the other stories we're following for you this Tuesday. The Biden administration increasing the nation's refugee admission fourfold amid facing bipartisan backlash. Also, Bill and Melinda Gates shutting the windows on their marriage of 27 years. We're going to ask a high-profile celebrity attorney about what's next for them and their foundation. And then next, we're going to go get inside the mind of a conservative woman as Tennessee Senator and friend of the show, Marsha Blackburn, is going to join us right here on set.
All right, so another month of over 170,000 migrants illegally crossing our southern border. As the problems there continue to get worse by the day, teachers' unions dictating CDC guidelines affecting millions of kids, and genocide in China, and why the NBA doesn't seem to care very much about that.
And for more on that, we want to welcome in now Tennessee Senator and the author of the book, The Mind of a Conservative Woman Seeking the Best for Family and Country, Marsha Blackburn, good morning to you, Senator.
Good morning. I'm delighted to join you on set.
We're delighted to have you. What a treat,
Yes.
finally.
This is a treat. This is a treat and a sign that things are slowly returning to normal. So nice to have you joining us.
That's right. And Tennessee is open for business. It's wonderful to be there. People are out and about. Kids are playing sports. You know, it's just really getting back on the right track to normal, and people are loving it.
I know that you've been in New York for only a matter of hours, but have you noticed the difference between a state like Tennessee and the state of New York?
Of course, you know, flying in last night, the airport, there was no music, no live music.
Right.
There weren't people walking around like you see when you fly out of Nashville, where I flew
Of
from
course,
yesterday.
The best airport to fly into.
I know it.
Yeah.
Well, let's get right into it, Senator. We've got a lot to talk about this morning. I want to start with the CDC situation with the teachers' unions. I was under the impression, and maybe I'm silly, but I thought the CDC was supposed to not be a political body that could be influenced so easily. It seems like they've colluded with the teachers' unions, and who's paying the price? It's millions of moms and dads and grandparents out there right now because kids are either at home entirely or they're in this hybrid world where they go to school 2 days a week and then they're at home the other 3 days a week, which is terrible.
You know, Rob, it's the children that are paying the price. When you look at the mental and emotional health, the learning skills, these are losses that these children are going to spend many years trying to recover and trying to get back up to pace on their learning. So I find the fact that the CDC was listening to the teachers union just incredible. We've heard this, the CDC has said, let's follow the science. And people would say, okay, we'll follow the science. We will wear a mask and wash our hands and stay home and do the quarantines. And then to find out that there was this push and pull, give and take, that the teachers union was communicating directly with the CDC on this guidance is something that does cause us all to wonder. And you know, you look at some of the parochial or private schools that opened back up immediately, and they've done fine.
Yeah.
And then you look at the public schools where there has been basically a lockdown or a no-go when it goes to classes. The fact that we have children that have not been in a classroom in over a year. And this is such a disservice to those children and their ability to learn.
Senator, we were talking about it this morning. We were wondering if the CDC is in bed with the teachers' unions, who else are they in bed with? You know, what other industries has this impacted?
And something you just touched on, the mental health of the kids.
Right.
I find it kind of ironic that it's Mental Health Awareness Month. It's also Teacher Appreciation Week. And you see so much online and on the media of let's honor our teachers, let's get the mental health of our kids in line, but people aren't realizing the very simple connection of getting kids back in their social circles, back in school. Wouldn't that solve the problem?
And children need that socialization. And look at the rates of suicide, the drug abuse with teens, the teen pregnancy. All of these adverse indicators are up. And when you talk with pediatricians and you also talk with classroom teachers, and I have talked with some that have a whole lot of spunk, and they have found out, they've actually said, one teacher said, you may lock the door of my school, but you're not going to lock down learning for children.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I appreciate that enthusiasm for teaching these children that they have brought to this to say, we're going to get through this and then we're going to get back in the classroom as fast as possible. These children need that in-class instruction.
Your governor there in Tennessee pushed for this back in January.
Right.
You now said you're fully reopened. Do you notice a difference? It would be hard to calculate across the country, but a difference between the kids in your state, in Tennessee, versus how children are doing across the country?
Yeah, they're probably smiling.
Which would be such a rare sight to see.
And they're going to, this past weekend, we had sporting events with our grandsons. And the kids are running around and they're playing and they're competing.
Being kids?
They're being kids. They're going to birthday parties. They go to church. They are out and about. And that is what you want children to do. Because we want them to grow up and to realize this is the greatest country on the face of the earth. We want them to dream these big dreams. We want them to have the opportunity for these dreams to come true. A big part of that is getting these children in the classroom, back into their activities, and then helping them to be prepared for their future.
And Senator, I've said it when you've been on before, it is not xenophobia, but because of this virus, which came from China, our kids, millions, I've got 2 young kids myself, they've been robbed of more than a year. And when you're a kid, you only get so many years before you start to grow up and you know, life becomes
have to do real life things.
Quickly. Quickly.
Wish you could go back.
Exactly. Gosh, I wish I could be back right now. A quick question, and then I want to move on to the border, and Rachel's going to dive into that. But so right now, about 30% of kids are in some form of this hybrid learning. In the White House, they just have not said that they want all kids back in school by the fall without question. How concerning is that for you as a United States Senator?
It is astounding to me that we would have gone this far. Vaccines are out there. Thank you, President Donald Trump and Operation Warp Speed and these great scientists that did this. But teachers can all get vaccinated. Up to children that are 16 years of age can get vaccinated.
Right.
So there is no reason to not be in school and have these kids in-person learning. And the fact that this is not pushing forward, I would be doing, if I were a school superintendent, I would be doing everything I could do to open the doors and get the kids in school. If I were a governor, I would be pushing to get these kids in school. And I think Iowa was the first state, a good female mom, grandmom governor, the first one to get the doors open and kids back in school for in-person learning.
Yeah, it's not just the kids, it's everyone at home that's been adjusting over the past year and a half. Let's shift now to the border, the crisis at the southern border. Just recently, we've seen 4 people died in that boat that capsized off San Diego. We also saw 90 people were found inside a home in Houston, all while President Biden went on NBC News and said it's under control.
Yeah, we
Quote,
got it.
It's under
no
control.
worries.
How concerning is that, and why is it that it's not getting more attention? I thought after the address that people would notice it wasn't being talked about. And some are saying, oh, well, the other media stations are just elaborating on this story. But it is a crisis. It's clear in front of us.
Well,
Why
CNN says we're lying.
Right.
You know, flatly. They say that, well, that's not really what's happening. It's a misrepresentation.
All they need to do is go down there and they will see for themselves.
Right.
And the vice president should be down there and see for herself
Right.
what is happening. You know, go out with some of the sheriffs and the Border Patrol on their rounds and take a look at what is there, what is happening. It's a humanitarian crisis. It is indeed a national security crisis because, Rachel, every town's a border town. Every state is a border state. Right. One of the main things when we are talking with our local mayors, county mayors, sheriffs, police chiefs, they will tell you they are seeing such an uptick of this meth and fentanyl coming back into their communities. They didn't have this at this level a year ago. They had, pardon me, seen a decrease in what was coming into their communities during 2019, 2020. Yeah. And now there is another uptick. And the fact that marijuana is being laced with fentanyl, adversely impacting kids, and the whole situation is out of control. It is a crisis.
And the American people do not realize, we've had sheriffs on and people from the Border Patrol, it can take less than a day from illegally crossing to getting to main streets throughout the country. And,
right.
and it's deadly, and it's a crisis. In the Biden administration, talk about gaslighting the American people, that joke of a speech that we saw last night, that empty chamber, just very bizarre. The senator is with us when we come right back, but I did want to ask you about our vice president. She has yet to go. She's yet to talk about it. She wants to go to the countries in Central America and deal with it at the root. You served with Kamala Harris. How concerned are you about this?
I'm very concerned. Do we need to address the root causes? Absolutely, and I've said that for years, that these countries do not want the cartels and the communists running their country.
Right.
You look at what has happened to Venezuela, and people are going, hey, wait a minute, do we need to be working with them? Absolutely. Can you throw money at it and say, fix it? No, that's not going to happen. It is going to take a deeper dive and greater attention, and you have to work the root causes, and then you have to work also the symptoms. And the crisis at the border is what is happening right now with people rushing to that border. As we would say in Tennessee, y'all come. And people heard Joe Biden say, y'all come. And they came.
It's as simple as that.
And the cartels are sophisticated, they are wealthy, they are organized, and they are taking advantage
And they're
of
getting
this.
wealthier by the day. And the president just raised the refugee
Disheartening.
cap to
Yeah.
over 62,000 now. Senator Marsha Blackburn, so nice to have you in studio with us. She is sticking around after the break. She's gracious enough to stay with us for more than one segment. We begged her. She said yes. My first day back after my little break, too. What a treat for me.
I know. Look at you.
Stay with us more with the senator. Well, welcome back into Wake Up America. I'm Rob Finnerty alongside Rachel Roller. We are continuing our very special conversation with our guest this morning.
So joining us now for more, live in studio, Tennessee Senator and author of the book, The Mind of a Conservative Woman, Seeking the Best for Family and Country, Marsha Blackburn. Good morning and welcome
Good
back.
morning.
Thanks for
you.
sticking
An
with us.
excellent book, by the way. Senator, I want to talk about the situation in China. We've spoken about this many times before, and I don't get the logic here at all. So Major League Baseball can no longer have their All-Star game in Atlanta, Georgia, okay? But the NBA can continue to operate and make billions of dollars. They've been there televising games since the early 1990s without anybody saying anything, including the players, by the way, despite some of the atrocities that are still taking place in China.
And you look at what happened with Daryl Morley and the tweet about the Hong Kong freedom fighters supporting freedom.
Right.
Isn't that what we're supposed to do? Cheer for freedom. And you look at the Chinese Communist Party and the atrocities against the Tibetans, Inner Mongolians, the way they treat the Taiwanese, the genocide that is there in Xinjiang, you know. And my question for Adam Silver, I know he says he majored in political science, so he understands.
He understands,
the
yeah.
Chinese Communist Party. But when has he been to Xinjiang? When has he asked the CCP about what they're doing to the Uyghurs? Why are they persecuting this Muslim minority? Why are they trying to rid them from the face of the earth? Why are they using them as slave labor? Does he insist that the factories that are making NBA licensed products not use slave labor? And why are they holding these individuals in concentration camps? And of course, they refer to them as re-education camps. And I just think that this is a situation. You know, what we have to realize is the Chinese Communist Party is intent on global domination. That is their goal. They intend to rule the world. They are partnering up with Russia, with the Iranians, with the North Koreans, and we know China is our adversary. So how do you deal with your adversary?
Does Joe Biden know that, by the way?
My hope is that every day he realizes more and more China is not our friend.
Yeah.
And that when you are doing business, all of these companies need to realize you are doing business with the Chinese Communist Party, because they are a part owner in every company that is there. So realize the extent to which you have this civil military fusion taking place in China between their commercial sector, their military sector, and it is all held together by the Chinese Communist Party.
And Senator, touching back on the NBA for a moment, because people get so frustrated when they see athletes speaking out about their opinion, giving their political advice, and they want them just to, what was it, the phrase that got everyone all up in arms, to shut up and dribble. You know, remember that whole debate that went on, and they just wanted people to stick to their sport.
Right.
But why is it that we see them so outspoken on certain topics, but when it comes to such as the Uyghur Muslims, do you think that Americans are just unaware of what's happening and maybe not informed enough that, as you mentioned, the NBA is still being broadcast in China, making millions, billions of dollars, billions of dollars doing so? Do you think the average American just doesn't know what's happening?
I think many people are not aware of what is happening. We were just discussing the border.